You know that saying, when it rains, it pours? Well, imagine it raining unemployment, police harassment, racism, murder, gang violence, and poverty, all in the same night. And you're just trying to get home with your dignity intact. That's the kind of night we're walking into today. This is a story where one bad decision leads to another, where injustice hangs in the air like cigarette smoke, and where, honestly, no one gets out clean. It's gritty, it's raw, and it's one of those books that doesn't try to make you feel good. It tries to make you see. So buckle up. We're about to walk through one long, chaotic night in the life of a man who just snapped. Our story kicks off with Michael Adonis, Mikey to his friends, storming through the streets of a poor neighborhood, angrier than a cat thrown into a bathtub. Why? Because he's just been fired from his job at a sheet metal factory. And not for being late, lazy, or stealing. Nope. Mikey dared to ask to use the toilet, and his white foreman decided that was lazy. When Mikey swore at him for the insult, he was thrown out. And Mikey's rage is simmering.
That son of a bitch, that bloody white son of a bitch, I'll get him.
Now, this neighborhood is not the kind of place you go for a peaceful stroll. Gangs, prostitution, and poverty are the wallpaper here. Mikey stops at a Portuguese restaurant and meets his friend Willieboy, a man who wears his anti-establishment attitude like a badge. Willie brags about never working for white folks. Work for them? Never. But Mikey's friends don't make things easier. A local gang led by a guy named Foxy strolls in looking for one of their boys, Sakis, and they mock Mikey for being too good to join them. Mikey doesn't take the bait, pays for his food, and leaves, still boiling inside. As he walks off his anger, Mikey meets Joe, a homeless boy with a political streak. Joe tells him the city wants to make the beaches white only. Mikey gives him a little money for food and walks on. Then, police stop and search him, because apparently, being black and walking at night is enough probable cause. They suspect he's carrying daga or marijuana. He isn't. They find only money and cigarettes and move on, leaving Mikey more bitter than before. Mikey eventually stops at a pub to drown his frustration in alcohol. He chats with a taxi driver and Mr. Green about racism, how black people in South Africa and African Americans in the United States are both targeted and killed. There's even a grisly local story about a man named Flippy whose insides almost spilled out after a knife fight. Lovely neighborhood, right? Mikey finally goes home. On the stairs, he chats briefly with a woman named Hazel, then encounters his neighbor, Uncle Dowdy, an elderly, alcoholic Irishman who's diabetic and very, very lonely. He used to be an actor, fought in 2 wars, and once had a colored wife. Now he's abandoned, waiting for death. Mikey helps the old man to his room, but Dowdy's tears over his own wasted life only make Mikey's bitterness boil over.
What the hell you crying about? You old white bastard, you got nothing to worry about.
Mikey mocks him, holding his wine bottle hostage. Then Dowdy says something, maybe an insult, maybe just an unlucky choice of words, and in Mikey's drunken, angry mind, the old man becomes that hateful foreman. Rage takes over. Mikey lashes out and strikes Dowdy on the head. He doesn't just hurt him, he kills him. When he sobers up, he panics.
God, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to kill the blurry old man.
But he also knows
the law don't like white people being finished off.
So he flees back to his room, locks the door, and prays no one saw him. Meanwhile, we meet Constable Rout, a white police officer honestly even more bitter than Mikey. He despises his wife and, well, he just can't stop complaining about her. Racist to the bone, he's the kind of man who figures bullying black folks is just part of the job. Willieboy, thinking maybe Mikey might lend him some money, heads over to his apartment. When there's no answer, he tries Uncle Dowdy's room instead, only to stumble on the corpse. Terrified, he bolts down the stairs. A woman sees him running from the room and, curious, she goes to check. She lets out a scream when she finds the dead old man. In another apartment, Frankie Lorenzo, a tired stevedore, lies exhausted on his bed. His wife, Grace, has just told him she's pregnant again, and he's furious. They already have 4 kids, all sharing one bed and a single threadbare blanket. He yells at her to take birth control pills. Then, seeing her burst into tears, he apologizes.
Children are riches for poor people.
He mutters almost under his breath. It's a quiet, painful moment that, honestly, just mirrors the hopelessness of everyone in this story. Back on the street, Willieboy is terrified. He's convinced folks will suspect him of the murder. He ends up at Miss Gypsy's shebeen for a drink, but things go south real fast. He drunkenly insults Gypsy's customers, white men with black girls, and a brutal fight breaks out. He's beaten, drugged, and tossed out onto the stoop. By now, the police have arrived at the tenement. A man named John Abrahams claims he saw Willieboy near the murder scene, wearing a yellow shirt. Ralt decides that's enough evidence to hunt him down, even if it means rounding up every black man in a yellow shirt. Mikey, meanwhile, is sitting in a cafe with Joe. The guilt is eating him alive. He felt as if he was the only man who had ever killed another. He longed to be questioned about it, but he knows telling the truth means going to jail. Foxy and the gang invite him to join them on a burglary, and for the first time, Mikey is tempted. Joe begs him not to get involved, sharing his own tragic story, how his family was evicted, his father abandoned them, and he ended up on the streets. But Mikey's too far gone.
Let it go.
Willieboy, humiliated from the beating, lashes out at Mr. Green on the street. He searches him for money, finds nothing, and moves on, only to spot a police van at the end of the road. Meanwhile, Mikey gives in and joins Foxy's gang. They smoke marijuana and get ready for a burglary, but then, bang, a gunshot rings out. Constable Ralt and his partner are out on patrol when they spot a boy in a yellow shirt, Willieboy. Ralt, just itching for blood, gives chase. Willieboy hides, scared out of his mind and confused, wondering why he's being hunted. All those childhood memories of abuse and neglect just come rushing back. Eventually, he runs. Ralt shoots. Willieboy fumbles for his knife, maybe to defend himself, or maybe it's just instinct, but Ralt fires again. Willieboy collapses. The driver is horrified. They were so close to capturing him alive. He urges Ralt to call an ambulance, but Ralt insists on taking him to the police station instead. In the police van, Willieboy fades in and out of consciousness. Ralt, needing cigarettes, orders the driver to stop at a cafe, while Willieboy is bleeding in the back. The boy screams for help, but Ralt just ignores him. Moments later, Willieboy dies. And just like that, another black life is snuffed out, accused of a crime he didn't commit. Foxy and his gang are ready for their heist. Uncle Dowdy's body has been taken away. John Abrahams lies awake, guilt gnawing at him.
What's it help you, turning on your own people?
Joe walks alone through the night, heading toward the sea. Just another forgotten soul. Frankie Lorenzo sleeps. Grace stares into the darkness, awake and thinking. And Mikey? He's still out there. A murderer. A victim. A symbol of a system that breaks people long before they ever break the law. The story I've just taken you through is from Alex La Guma's powerful novella, A Walk in the Night, a cornerstone of South African protest literature, and one of the most haunting depictions of life under apartheid ever written. This is not a feel-good book. It's not meant to be. La Guma doesn't give us heroes or villains in the traditional sense. Instead, he shows us ordinary people crushed under the weight of racism, poverty, and oppression, and how that pressure warps them. Mikey is the perfect example. He's not inherently evil. He's bitter, humiliated, and angry, pushed to a breaking point. When he kills Uncle Dowdy, it's not just an act of rage. It's a violent eruption of everything apartheid has done to him. As he says after the murder,
"To hell with all of them and that old man too. What for did he want to go on living for anyway?"
Willieboy's death is equally tragic. You know, it's just the wrong place, wrong time, wrong shirt. He dies not because he's guilty, but because the system needs someone to blame. And John Abrahams' regret?
What's it help you, turning on your own people?
Is a chilling commentary on how oppression turns communities against themselves. La Guma also weaves in deeply human moments. Frankie Lorenzo's family struggles, Joe's story of abandonment, even Uncle Dowdy's loneliness. They're all pieces of the same puzzle, showing how systemic injustice bleeds into every corner of life. Major themes include racial injustice. The entire narrative is shaped by apartheid, its cruelty, its absurdity, and its deadly consequences. You know, oppression breeds anger, which leads to violence, and then that violence just circles right back around to more oppression. It's a cycle no one escapes, no matter how hard they try. Poverty and despair. Well, they're not just scenery in this story. From Frankie's crowded apartment to Joe's homelessness, poverty isn't just a backdrop, it's a prison, keeping folks trapped and desperate. Both Mikey and Abraham's wrestle with their consciences, showing us how guilt, it lingers long after the act itself. Responsibility weighs heavy, and it's something they just can't shake off. Alex La Guma, who lived from 1925 to 1985, was honestly one of South Africa's most important anti-apartheid writers. Born in Cape Town, he was a member of the South African Communist Party and, a fierce opponent of racial segregation. His activism actually led to arrests, house arrest, and eventually exile, but he never stopped writing about the injustices of his homeland. La Guma's work is, part literature and part historical testimony. Through stories like A Walk in the Night, he exposes the brutal realities of apartheid South Africa, not through headlines or speeches, but through the lives of ordinary people caught in its grip. A Walk in the Night isn't a comforting read, but that's exactly why it matters. It's a mirror held up to a society built on injustice. It shows how systems break people, how blame is misplaced, and how tragedy becomes inevitable when humanity is stripped away. By the end, there are no heroes, just broken lives scattered across a city that doesn't care. And maybe that's La Guma's most powerful message, that until we change the system, stories like Mikey's and Willieboy's will keep happening, over and over again. If you found this story as powerful and unsettling as I did, consider picking up A Walk in the Night yourself. It's short, but it hits hard, and it's a vital piece of African literary history. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoy deep dives into powerful books like this one. Until next time, keep reading, keep questioning, and keep walking through the night. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.